It's Halloween. Let's talk about past lives and being a witch. I'm going to take this hat off because, as cute as it is and covered in cobwebs as it is, as annually, it's a bit much. So, for this week's video, I wanted to talk about past lives because they're quite interesting, they're quite fascinating, and whenever I get into discussion with people around this and I start talking about it, they always go, wow, this is so fascinating. And it's something that we don't talk about too much, but with Halloween here and kind of the witchy energy, I thought maybe it was time to talk about it. So, first of all, if you don't believe in past lives, my hat just moved. That's weird. if you don't just jumped. The witch is it. If you don't believe in past lives, I don't blame you. Because I don't even know if they exist. So, let's talk about this for a minute. There is a lot of how the universe works that we do not understand. Quantum physics will tell us about, we can talk about string theory, we can talk about quantum physics proving that everything is happening in the same moment and time does not exist, it's just a concept. So technically, if we have past lives, all our future lives and past lives are all happening in one moment, which blows our minds. It's insane. So, we don't know how things work. If we did understand how everything in the universe works, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't be making this video, so... We don't know how things work. So, let's explore this topic. The one thing I do know after however many years I've been in clinic is that there are things that are unexplainable. So you can get a baby and a little toddler who is really scared of fire and they've not experienced a fire, they have no awareness of fires, their parents aren't scared of fire, there's just no reason for it, but they are petrified of fire. So sometimes we can have things that don't make any sense. I used to have a really bad fear of dogs. Like, I was terrified of dogs. But I got pulled out of my pram by a dog when I was about 18 months old. And then I got attacked by a dog when I was about a couple of years old. And then I got attacked again when I was about 7 and da-da-da-da-da. There's evidence in this lifetime that gave me a fear of dogs. It made sense in this lifetime because I'd had those experiences. Now, I now think of them as big cats. Top tip. I cleared it with some neuro-linguistic programming years ago. I cleared all that fear. Don't really have that anymore. As I said, I think of them as big cats. I'm done, I'm fine. So I do know a little kid though who is petrified of dogs. Like, he literally jumps every time he sees one. He's never had an interaction with a dog at a young age that's caused any pain. His parents aren't scared of dogs. There's no reason for him in this lifetime to be scared of dogs. But bless his little consocks, jumps out of the way of them all the time, really scared. This is when we kind of think there could be something in the pot from previous. So I see this a lot in clinic, not just with little kids, with adults as well, where there's something that doesn't make any sense. So we experience in a lifetime like maybe a recurring theme, or we have a really strong fear, or we have a belief system that didn't come from this lifetime, it came from somewhere else. So there is some evidence that past lives exist in some capacity. There's definitely something going on that we can't explain in the here and now. So today I want to talk about past lives, all the different ways that they show up, and we'll talk a little bit about witches at the end as it's Halloween. So there are a couple of ways that past lives can show up in our system. I was having a coffee a few weeks ago with a friend, and we got onto the topic of past lives somehow. I can't remember how it came up in conversation. And she asked me why so many people have a past life of being Cleopatra. And I was like, well, I can tell you why. And I explained it, and she was like, oh my word, this is so fascinating. So I'm going to go into this today, but we need to talk about past lives first. Now, everything in the universe is trying to find balance. We live in a universe of duality. Hot, cold, up, down, masculine, feminine. We have both. There is duality in the universe. We can't escape that. So, in theory, our past lives, we can, be on the receiving end of things, or we can be the giver, if you like. So we could have been the victim of abuse in a lifetime. But for every lifetime where we've been abused, we've probably been an abuser as well. So there's no judgment with past lives, because we will go and look through every single version of things. So as I look at it in a way that consciousness, the universal energy, the kind of life force energy of the universe, wants to experience every single permutation of life. So all of us have a job in going through this infinite list of things that needs ticking off. So this is why not everyone's happily married with 2.4 children, because someone needs to be divorced, someone needs to be single, like every permutation needs to be experienced. So what occurs technically is that the soul makes a kind of contract of what it wants to experience in a lifetime, and then will experience that thing. And then at the end of a lifetime, it should tick that box as done and go into another lifetime with another contract and do something different. Now, we could have more than one thing on the list, obviously, but we may have a lifetime where we want to experience like a theme over and over again. So let's say rejection. Someone makes a contract, their soul wants to experience rejection in a lifetime. So maybe they get given up at their birth by their birth mum. And then maybe they get, a foster home, and then they get rejected from there, and then they move somewhere else, and then they get rejected from there, and they have like a really turbulent childhood, going from home to home to home. And eventually they leave home, and then maybe they have really bad relationships where they keep getting abandoned, they keep getting rejected. And, that could be a theme that goes through a whole lifetime. Or you could just experience it once, and it's like a really major event that really kind of sits with you. So sometimes in clinic, when we go to a past life, you can almost see in the contract of the soul what it is that they've come to experience. So they may be having a really shitty life, but the soul's like, I'm happy. I'm doing exactly what I came here to do. It's all good. If the soul's not happy, then we know something's going wrong and we need to tidy it up. But what can happen is you come into this lifetime, let's go back to rejection, to experience rejection. The first moment you're rejected, the moment you're born by your birth mother and you get given away, that might actually be enough to tick it off the list. But you've spent the next 20, 30 years experiencing rejection in loads of different forms. And so we get to the end of that, and it's like, you're so far through your life of rejection, we come to a session and it's like, do you know what? You've ticked this box so many times. Your soul's quite happy for me to tick this off and you can move on. Now, what can happen is we get to the end of a lifetime, and for some reason the soul doesn't tick that box as done. So you did rejection. You did rejection really well in that lifetime. You go to your next lifetime, you get a new contract with things to explore, but you're still doing the rejection from the past life because you haven't ticked it off. Or it could be, maybe you wanted to experience blindness in a lifetime, and you've had 50 lifetimes where you've gone blind or you've had bad eyesight or something. And you come into this lifetime and you haven't actually got there yet, but your body mind is looking for an opportunity to have that experience. So maybe your eyesight started to degrade already. Maybe your body is looking for an opportunity to have an accident, to lose your sight. That could be something that is kind of there, bubbling in the background, waiting to be done. Now, if it's not in the contract for this lifetime, we can clear that off the list. And you can be free of it. So you don't have to attract that situation. Or you've done rejection so many times this lifetime. We're like, okay, you're done. We can wipe this off the slate. You've ticked that box. But if you haven't yet experienced something that your soul wants to experience, it came here to have that experience, there's nothing we can do. You have to go through it. So sometimes I get people come to me who are really sick and, they've got some really horrific disease or experience going on. And it's just like, I can support them to make it easier. I can support it to not be so consuming and just help them through it mentally and emotionally and all the other ways. But the soul's really happy because they're having the experience that they came here to have. So I can't take that gift away from them. I can't take that experience away. And we might come back to this when we get to the witchy bit at the end, because it's important. So in a session, we can sometimes go to that contract and almost tick it off. Or we go back to the contracts from the previous lifetimes and we can tick it off. So it's done. We don't need to do it anymore. And we can move on with our lives. So sometimes it's something from this lifetime and we don't remember the memory. Sometimes it's something we've picked up ancestrally from our parents or our ancestors. That can sometimes kind of show up like a past life. So that sometimes can be the way that it comes in. It could be in the DNA or something as a memory, but it's not yours. It was your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother's. And sometimes it is something that you've experienced in a past life. And you're like a tuning fork. You're still in resonance with that and you're still feeling it in your body. So sometimes people come into this lifetime where they have like a scar on their body or they have a birthmark or something, and it actually correlates to an injury in a past life. So these things can happen and we can clear it and heal it, and you can move on from it. So back to Cleopatra. There are a lot of people who have done past life regression, or they have memories pop up, or they have something that makes them think they were Cleopatra or Jesus or someone like this, who had a massive fun, not lifetime. They have had, like some people just live a life where there's trauma all the time, there's drama all the time, there's pain all the time, there's something going on. They were here to tick a lot of boxes. Now, if someone dies with unresolved stuff, that stuff needs to be resolved. So, someone like Cleopatra has a really crazy life. All the bits that she didn't process kind of go into the universe to be seen and healed and tidied up. So let's talk about this in a really simple way. Let's imagine a really easy example. Let's say someone gets taken off the earth plane. I have to be careful what I say on YouTube. And in a, as the victim of someone else kind of causing a problem. And they get taken off the earth plane very quickly. Between the incident and their timely leaving the earth plane, there isn't a very long time, so they don't get to experience and process and work through all of the trauma of the event. So they have they may process like a teeny bit of it, but the rest of it gets broken into these fragments to be processed by someone else. So every single person comes into this lifetime and they kind of scoop up a load of fragments of other people's stuff. So if we go to the lifetime of someone like Cleopatra or Jesus, or someone who had like a really mad life, there are going to be lots of fragments and aspects of it that need to be processed and resolved. So it kind of goes into the sea of consciousness, and we all pick up aspects of this and resolve it within us. So that person that got taken off the earth plane by someone else in a very traumatic way, all of those fragments need to be resolved. So they will go into the sea of consciousness and everyone will pick up different aspects of that. So there may be someone who picks up the aspect of maybe they knew something was going to happen and they didn't get to resolve and that feeling that something was going to happen to them that day. And that someone who picks up that fragment could spend their whole lifetime looking over their shoulder, really worried that, someone's going to bump them off and have an issue. So it could show up in like many, many different ways. Like they could just have a feeling, they could have tension in their body all the time, and it's all due to this fragment. So if someone goes for a past life regression, quite often they can, via this fragment, they can tune into the lifetime, and therefore they think that they were Cleopatra or Jesus or whatever. They weren't. It's just a fragment. So if you came and had a session with me and we resolved that fragment, it's like, okay, I'm seeing an aspect of a lifetime that we need to clear here. It's not yours, someone else's, and we resolve it. You won't be able to tune into that lifetime anymore if you went for past life regression again, because it wasn't yours. But because of that fragment, you had a window, a doorway of tuning into it. So this is why so many thousands of people think they were the same person, because of all of these fragments. So everything needs to be healed. So all of these fragments, all of these past life things need to be resolved somehow by someone somewhere. So we're constantly resolving stuff for other people from other lifetimes that have absolutely nothing to do with our soul. Just the way things occur. So there's a lot that can come up. There's a lot that we can unravel in sessions and work through. It is very fascinating. So, as it's Halloween, let's talk about witches. Now, yes, there were witches. Obviously, there is an energy there of, maybe the local healer or the local mad woman or all these kind of pictures and things are being glumped together, and probably Hollywood has had a lot in shaping what we think of witches. But a lot of witches were just the local healer or the woman that was a little bit psychic, or just that person who was the local person that was just blessed with being the interesting one. Now, you've all heard the stories of how to test if someone was a witch or not. Normally it involved killing said woman to test if she was a witch. If she survived the drowning or the burning or anything, she was a witch. So of course most of them died because they weren't witches. So it was a great way of clearing out any awkward women or any problems. Another time in history where there was an excuse for, clearing out some ladies from the agenda. So a lot of people, men and women, can have that past life energy or fragments of being a witch or being tested to see if you're a witch and being taken off the earth plane in some interesting circumstances. Normally with that energy of persecution. So persecution can be a massive, just like rejection, it can be another thing that kind of comes up time and time again. So I have tuned into quite a few past lives where I've been a witch, and one actually came up in someone else's session. Apparently, which was great. So I was like a proper full-on one, and I tuned into a lifetime recently, but I can't tune into it again. So it may have been a fragment where, I mean, I was just not a nice lady at all. I can't even say on here what I did. It was, yeah, really horrible. If it was me or not, you know, I can kind of slightly tune into it now, but it's kind of resolved. So cleared it, probably a fragment. So some of us have done some interesting stuff in past lives, but we'll be on the receiving and the healing. I keep joking, you know, I've decided to be a healer now to balance out all the times where I've done dodgy stuff. But it's probably true for all of us. Now, the interesting thing, if you are drawn to being a healer, is that you've probably done healing in many, many lifetimes. And so you've been the witch maybe a few times. Now, I can work miracles in clinic. I see it every week. But I can't work miracles for every single client, every single session. As I always say, sometimes it's taken us a while to get into a mess. Sometimes it's going to take a little bit of effort to get out of it. I love my miracle clients. I love my miracle sessions. But it's not going to be every single client has a miracle every single session. I hold the space for miracles and we see what shows up. So I know miracles are possible, I see them, and I'm like, I can't guarantee that every single person that comes to me is going to have a miracle. You know, I mean, you might watch this video and go, oh, I want to clear out all my witchcraft memories and past lives, and you book a session, and then your body doesn't want to go to that at all. You know, there's all this other stuff that your body's like, I really want to look at this problem with my heart, and, you know, like, it's got more priorities on the to-do list. So we can't always get what we want. So this can have caused problems back in the day, because if you were the local healer and you were forced to heal someone, probably, like maybe the local king's son was sick and you got brought in, you know, probably in shackles, and you had to heal this kid, it's not always possible. Because back to what I was saying earlier, sometimes the soul has to have an experience. So you can't take that gift away from them. If someone's really sick and they're supposed to be sick in this lifetime, there's nothing you can do. You can make it a little bit easier. You might be able to take away some of the pain, but they're still going to have to go through that experience. So you get burnt, taken off the earth plane in a mysterious way because you didn't heal that kid or that problem. And, you know, it's... So a lot of us can come into this lifetime having had many lifetimes of being a really gifted healer, but that past life energy is causing conflict. Part of you wants to carry on healing, and part of you is scared stiff of being taken off the earth plane and persecuted for not doing it right and not being so miraculous or whatever the thing is. So some people get drawn to do modalities and heal in the way like I do, where I'm not really doing anything. I'm just observing your system and highlighting it to your body so that you can heal it. You're doing all the work. I'm not doing anything. It's a classic healing situation for a past witch, because I can't get persecuted when I'm not doing anything. So that's always fun. And some people may get drawn to really, I mean, there's some interesting modalities out there, some interesting energies going on with things. Even some of the ones that are very well known, and I sometimes tune into them and go, and maybe it's a past life, but I'm not drawn to go anywhere near that at all. You know, it's really fascinating. We can have preferences for how we work, or we'll attract different modalities into our life that kind of satiate all of this backlog of stuff. So if we actually, and there's one of the reasons why I constantly look and clear my past lives as a witch and all the rest of it, is because I want to get free of all that persecution. I want to get free of all that gump so that I can actually show up for my clients and work miracles. And not have all of this conflict internally and everything else that healers can sometimes have because they haven't done the work. They haven't looked at all of these past lives. So if that is you, seek something out, book a session with me, you know, whatever. It's probably worth looking at this. I might do a series on it at some point. We might do a persecution series. Idea. So, there's a lot of stuff that you may need to address if you want to go into the healing arts. Or I know a lot of healers, they come on courses that I run and, they're really gifted, but they never go out there and make it happen. It's just a hobby. It doesn't turn into a business. They're holding themselves back. And if that's you, it may be because you have some of this persecution stuff running in the background. So find a way of resolving it and working through it, because the world needs you and we need more healers on the planet, and it's such a gift to be able to work in this way and support people and help people to heal and clear all of these blocks. So don't be afraid of putting your witchy hat on at Halloween. But if you're like me, you can sometimes tune into it a little bit too much and then people get really freaked out. It's kind of interesting. I once went dancing dressed as a witch and no one would dance with me all night. I think I was tuning in too much to a fragment. Anyway, have a great Halloween. Any questions, put them below. I'll happily answer them. Maybe make another video. If you've got an idea of something you want me to talk about, leave it below as well. And like, comment, share the video, and I will love you forever without my witchy energy. Bye.